2FM. Game On's Fantasy Football.
And you're very welcome along to the last, yes, it is the last game week of the season, and three happy campers are joining you on the podcast. It is Phil McGrath and Paul Caffrey from FantasyPremierLeagueTransfers.com. Good afternoon.
How are we?
We're good. Paul, how are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic.
Excellent. How? Yes,
How?
Indeed, as the Native Americans used to say. How to you two. Let us crack on with the podcast. As usual, a very, very quick look back at Game Week 37. Misnamed by me in the podcast as Game Week 38.
Andrew was getting one ahead of himself.
I was a week ahead of myself for once in my life. Anyway, Game Week 37, as it was, saw West Ham beat Spurs by 2-0. The goals from Downing and an own goal from Phil's lad, Mr. Kane. Aston Villa 3-1 winners.
That brought me a laugh.
Get the digs in early.
No, it's okay. He was sold before the game week started. Had no effect on me whatsoever.
Get the digs in early. Aston Villa 3, Hull City 1, Westwood with 1, Vyman with 2, and it was an own goal from Bowery as well. Got the Hull City one. Manchester United 1-0. They went down at the hands of Sunderland. Larson with the all-important goal for Sunderland in a fantastic game week for them. Newcastle 3-0 winners over Cardiff City. Yes, they're still awake, not quite gone on the holidays yet. Cardiff City, they're gone down. Goal scored by Stephen Taylor, Shola Amiobi and Remy. Stoke City 4-1 winners over Fulham, also going down. And the goal scored from Asadi, Walters, Arnautovic and Odemwingie. And Richardson got a consolation, but a scant consolation, I think, as they call that in the press. Swansea 0, Southampton 1. The goal there, well, it was a funny one. Lambert got the goal, the winner of the game. Everton 2, Man City 3. It finished at Goodison Park. Barkley and Lukaku, but 2 for Dzeko and 1 for Aguero. It was a strange game, not the best football game, but 3 points for Man City. That was all they cared about. Arsenal 1, West Brom 0. Giroud with the goal, man of the match for Arsenal. Wasn't the best performance they ever had. Chelsea 0, Norwich 0. Very important result. For Chelsea more than Norwich. Won't be enough for Norwich, but a valiant attempt. They played very well. And Crystal Palace 3-3 with Liverpool. Bizarre.
How bizarre.
Yes, indeed. Very, very. Alan, Sturridge and Suarez put Liverpool in front. But it was bizarre. Delaney and 2 from Gale. It made it Man City's title, basically. Manchester United 3, Hull City 1. The kids know to do it. Wilson with 2. Van Persie, the old man, got 1. And Fryatt with a goal for Hull. Man City then 4-0 victors over Aston Villa at home. They capped a good game week. Solid workmanship for Man City. Yaya Toure again, the master on show. Dzeko put 2 away. Jovetic got the other one. And Man City roar on towards the title. Sunderland, of course, they celebrated their celebration in style at home with a 2-0 victory over West Brom. Colback and Barini with the goals last night. That was it. So that was Game Week 37. It is time now for Game Week 38. Right, Game Week 38 now. Obviously, it is the last game week, so strategy is all important. And Phil, you're going to take us through how we're going to look at this game week, or how we should.
Yeah, well, I mean, at this point in the season, I think our usual format, normally we look at our focus games, we'll look at the players, and we kind of just decide what's going to come from it. But I mean, with one game week left to go, it's all or nothing. It's time to put it all out on the table and see what happens, and hopefully we can give you some advice and some strategy tips that you can implement this week if you're looking to close a gap on your mini league rivals. So I suppose kicking that one off, really, I mean, you've got to look at it from the point of view that it's got to be realistic. There's no point in kind of going gun ho if you haven't got a chance, really, because you could suffer in other leagues. But if there is in fact one league that you're in with a shout with, certainly that's the one you got to pick. You're obviously, like many people, you're going to be in a lot of leagues. Pick one, go for it, and then you kind of focus in from there, so you can look at who's above you, what they're doing, and how you can overcome that. So we'll kind of give you some tips for that. Realistically, I would say at this point, although we have seen 80-point gaps close in the final week of the season, I think it's probably a bit of a stretch. You're going to want to have a pretty good game week at that point. And with the league the way it is at the moment, the league title is effectively decided as far as I can see it. The bottom three are decided. The only teams that have anything worth playing for, I suppose, are Manchester City, obviously, because they need at least a point to claim the title. And then you're looking, Norwich are down, unless they score, it's 17 against Arsenal, which, let's be honest, isn't going to happen. So West Brom are safe. So then it's Spurs. Spurs are the only other side with something to play for.
Well, Liverpool
are going to try and keep the pressure on Man City.
Yeah, of course.
But
they're at home to Newcastle.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to...
they're going to do it. All I'm saying is, it's strange at this point of the season that we don't have more teams having more to play for.
Yes.
Realistically, you're looking at City, Liverpool and Spurs. They're the three teams that really have anything left to play for.
West Brom at home to Stoke City will want at least a point anyway, just to make sure the match doesn't matter.
Listen, I don't think it makes any difference, because even if Norwich win, they're not going to have a 17 goal swing to kind of drop West Brom. So that's not going to happen. So you got to look at it from that point of view. And one of the main things, obviously, we've spoken about time and time again, you'll hear a word that we've bandied around all season, was differentials. And what you need to be looking for this week is certainly differentials. One thing I will say is that most people, when they look for differentials, they look at the ownership rate and they say, yeah, he's got a low ownership rate, therefore he's a differential. This week, however, the ownership rate doesn't come into it. It's actually just based on the team you're chasing. So Yaya Toure has one of the biggest ownership rates in the game, and rightly so. However, if the team you're chasing doesn't have Yaya Toure, he's a differential. It kind of goes on its head, and that's one thing you need to bear in mind. And probably what we advise people to do is have a look at the league you've picked. Pick the team that you're chasing, and put your team side by side. Now, I did a video over on the side a couple of weeks ago for scouting differentials against the team you're chasing. So if you want to go back and reference that, this will cover some of what I've been talking about. And certainly when you can see the teams laid out, it makes it a bit easier. But if you have a look at what they have and what you have, first of all, look at the players that you have that are similar. So if it's a case that you have 4 or 5 players that are similar, you need to look at those straight away. Never mind who's different. Look at those and say, okay, are these players that I realistically think are going to get points this week? If the answer is yes, well then hold on to them. Because the chances are the person you're chasing isn't going to get rid of them, and straight away, should you sell those and they do well as you expect, you're going to be losing. So you need to keep the par first and foremost before you can think about making up ground. So have a look at those. Look at the 3 or 4, could be 5 or 6. Are these players that we realistically expect to get decent points this week? If the answer is yes, they stay. If the answer is no, you can start to sell them.
All right.
So from there, now, Paul, you feel free to chime in at any time, mate.
You're doing a great job here, so I'm happy to let you keep the flow going.
This lecture on how to be sneaky in the game by Phil McGrath is quite interesting.
I believe it's pronounced snaky.
Snaky.
So once you kind of have looked at the players that are the same and you've decided whether they're yes or no, whether they stay or whether they go, then you look at the players that are different. And again, you want to look at the same thing. Are these players we genuinely expect are going to make a difference this week? If the answer is no, well then they're technically on the list that they could transfer out. So realistically, by the end of this, you could have a team where you have got 4 or 5 players that are the same that you've decided, I'm going to keep them because I expect them to do well. And then you're going to end up with maybe 5 or 6 players that, you know what, I can afford to sell these and take a risk and look elsewhere. Because maybe they're not quite going to do it, but maybe they're differentials, and maybe they're just not good enough differentials. So a differential for differential's sake is no use to you. All
right. So get the right differentials. You're looking for the right sort of differential, and you're basically looking to gather the right sort of information on your competitor, on the person you're chasing.
So what you need to do then
or what about this also, I suppose, goes for the person who is top of their league and is trying to defend their lead.
Yes, it can do. However, because you're defending a lead, you don't have to be...
You don't have to chase. You can be...
You don't have to gamble as much. You just need to make sure you've got your bases covered. So if you look at the team that's behind you, you can look and go, who have we got are the same? Again, that's grand. We've got a lot of players the same, which means he's only got 1 or 2 players that can really hurt me, and I actually don't think they're going to do well this week, so I'm not too worried about it. Or if they've got a player in there that you think can hurt you, well then match them. Yeah. Don't look to better them. All you've got to do is match them, because you're just maintaining that gap. So that's kind of goes. But one of the big things I would get people to do is have a look at the team that you're chasing and have a look at their transfer strategy. So how many transfers did they make last week? Have they taken a points hit? Have they not? Do they have 2 free transfers? Because then you'll know if they've got, say, for example, they've got 2 free transfers to make and you've got 1. You know that already they can make more changes than you without having to take a points hit. And every points hit you take after that, you're -4 before we even start. So that's just one thing to have a look at. Do they have injured players? Are they going to be forced into making changes? So if it's a case that they've got their bench is completely injured and they've been, you can genuinely have a look at it and see, well, are they likely to play that person? No. Okay, so they're going to sit on their bench, but is the person on their bench coming in worth having? No. So they're going to make a change there. And you can kind of look at it from that point of view and see how that one kind of runs out. After that, it is about looking for differentials. It is about looking at the players, looking at the fixtures and saying who is likely to do well. Can I afford to bring them in? And like I said, it's not a differential based on ownership rate. It's a differential based on the team you're facing.
I just wish I had a cigar for this. I'm sitting back in the chair, Paul.
Yeah.
Are you?
Me too. I'm very relaxed here. And it's very good. It's good information as well. So yeah, keep going.
So I don't even have to write it down. We're recording it.
Yeah. So one of the big questions you kind of get asked is, well, how many differentials do I need?
How many differentials do I need, Phil?
There you go. That's the big question. Well, I'll put it to you this way. To set a realistic expectation, I would say that 50 points is probably being very realistic on what you can make up. So if you're chasing 50 points, really you're going to need about 7 differentials. So you've got those 3 or 4 players that you think are going to do well that are the same you're going to keep, and the rest have got to be valuable differentials, not differentials for differential's sake. So if it's 50 points, you're looking at about 7, 40 points, you're looking at about 5, 30 points, about 4, 20 points, maybe 3, and if it's only 10 points, it's 1 or 2. You don't need to gamble too much, you just got to hope the football gods are smiling your way. And that can simply come down to a good captainship.
Yeah.
So 50 points, you're looking at 7 differentials, and if anyone's chasing any more than that, okay, 60 points probably 8, 70 points is 9, and 80 plus points, I'm probably going to tell you, while it has been done, is probably unlikely the way the league has set itself up this year, and the fact that a lot of things have already been decided. So the big question is, what players do you look at bringing in?
What players do I look at bringing in, Phil?
And that's what we're going to come to next.
All right. Thank God for that.
Well, I think there's one thing that we should have a look at before we jump into that.
All right.
Hi, Paul.
He's still awake.
How's it going? Sorry,
Hey.
I just woke up there. Excellent stuff. Now, looking at the last day of the season, it's always, as you've said, I suppose the league turns itself on the head as regards differentials and other bits and pieces. Well, the results do as well. So I was reading, actually, there's a couple of good pieces out there. There's one piece in the Telegraph, another piece in the Guardian, and some other good sources. But if we look at, say, the last 4 seasons and the analysis of the teams who have actually had something to play for throughout the season and then nothing to play for, say, at the end of the season, basically, if the team has nothing to play for, their win percentage drops down probably 4 or 5%. But the interesting thing is they do score more goals and they do concede more goals.
They're
Another
more
thing
relaxed.
to look at, a bit more relaxed. Another thing to look at is
Go
I
out
suppose,
there and
the
enjoy
manager.
yourselves, lads. That's why.
Go out there and enjoy yourself. That's it. And it's the manager's style which is actually quite key. So, I mean, if you look on someone, I suppose Harry Redknapp, I mean, he really is about motivation and really getting the most out of his players, what he's known for. He's been involved in 8 Premier League games, which were effectively dead rubbers. And he went out and he's lost every single one of them, which I suppose is probably no real surprise when you see what his core strength is as a coach. However, you see managers like, say, Tony Pulis, for example, and he does very, very well in these types of fixtures. So it maybe is down to more organisation versus motivation, and the managerial styles then come into play. So that's something to be looking at and considering. And then I suppose the final thing to look at is, well, when both teams are really kind of, of something to play for, generally you're looking at maybe 2 to 2.5 goals per game is kind of the average, If one team has something to play for, you're looking at about 3 goals in the game. But then when both teams don't have anything to play for, again, as we said earlier, there's more goals. So you're looking at around between the 3.2, 3.5 mark. But if we, I suppose, delve into that a little bit further, it really comes down to every year there's kind of a couple of shock results where we see a lot of goals that generally we don't expect to see, I mean, a couple of them could be listed. I mean, if we look at last season, West Brom 5, Man United 5, and Alex Ferguson's last game. I mean, there were 10 goals. There's a lot of points there to be had. Obviously, West Brom also beat Reading 4-2, who were relegated. So then there's a lot of goals, a lot of points in those games. And kind of every season that you go back to, there's a couple of these games where you see these results. So, for example, Man United beat Blackpool 4-2. Newcastle played a 3-3 draw with West Brom in 2011. If we look at that same season, Blackburn also beat Wolves 3-2 away from home. I think Wolves, in that second goal, kept them up that year. And obviously Burnley got relegated in 2010. They went out and beat Spurs 4-2. Wigan, they lost 8-0 to Chelsea on the last day of the season, and they were going for the title.
So can I sum this up by saying what we know is that a lot of points are going to be scored on the last day of the season, but it's difficult to predict where.
Yes, yeah, I think that will be a fair enough summary. So really you're looking for who has something to play for, who has nothing to play for, and as we say now, let's have a look at the fixtures.
All right, thank God for that. Right, I've no theories. I've no other theories, so let's go with all your theories. Let us crack on, I suppose. Will we just kick off, go through the games? I suppose that's the best way to do it.
Let's just do a giant best of the rest this week, because I genuinely think that, like I said, because there's very few teams with something left to play for. There's nothing there's no focus games because there will be no focus.
Grant, it is all the games start at 3:00 on Sunday, the 11th of May. Cardiff City at home to Chelsea. Let's start in alphabetical position. So Cardiff City, any players at home? They're dead and buried. Bottom of the table.
I'm not going to lie to you, right? I don't really fancy much from Cardiff.
Okay. Steady on. Chelsea. Will we stay with the Welsh accent, though? Because it's quite nice. It's much better than a London accent, isn't it?
I could try, really, but it's not that great. Yeah, no, my accents are brilliant.
No, we just noticed that.
Yeah, no, I had a bit of crack in Newcastle with some Cardiff fans over the weekend. In fairness to them, they may have been down and out, but they partied hard.
Very good. All right, so Chelsea, are we looking at any players at Chelsea?
I think you can still look to Chelsea for points value this week. I think probably at the back, although Cardiff are down and out, they want to put on a performance for the last home game of the season. It's kind of last hurrah, if you will. But I still think there's value to be had in the Chelsea defence, and for me, I'd be kind of having a look in there.
All right, so
the usual.
Where do you reckon? Terry, his last game? Nah, he'll stay.
I think he will stay, yeah.
Yeah, but he'll play the last game, won't he?
Yeah, I can't see why he won't. I'd be surprised if he didn't.
What about Ashley Cole? Will he get a game? Send him off.
Ashley Cole might get a game, and the reason I'm saying that is because he's in need of match fitness going into the World Cup, and you just wonder maybe whether Hodgson's had a little word with Mourinho. Now, Mourinho doesn't strike me as the type of manager that would change his team lineup to suit a national manager.
You wouldn't bring him in though on the off chance?
Not at all. No. He's
no,
not.
He played the last two games. And he was very good against Liverpool.
He was.
You would deserve to hold on for that spot for the last game of the season.
But who are we going to bring in, lads? Let's cut the chat down. Azpilicueta still 5.7, still accessible.
Yeah, I think there's no point in spending any more money than need. I think certainly he looks like he's going to get a game. He's the cheapest option into the Chelsea defence, and he's one to be having a look at for me.
Midfield, give us a differential.
Midfield, I'm probably going to look to Willian at 7.5. Again, Shula at 6.8 is obviously cheaper. But with a 0.6% ownership rate, I think Willian will certainly be in with a shout of doing good things.
I'd agree with that as well. And the World Cup squad was announced yesterday, and I suppose there were questions whether he'd make it in and that, and he got into it, so he should have a good boost as well this weekend. I think this could be one of those games where we'll see a lot of those goals and get one of those freak results. So I'd very much be back in bringing in one or two Chelsea differentials, and Willian will certainly be top of that list.
I mean, the big question for fantasy managers, I suppose, is over Hazard. If everything's to be believed, he's trying to push through a move to get out of Stamford Bridge, and he hasn't scored. His only attacking returns that he's had were back in game week 31. Now, admittedly, he missed 34, 35 and 36. But if you have him, yeah, I'd probably sell him, because I don't know if he's going to get a whole lot of game time this week, so I wouldn't be pinning my Chelsea hopes on Hazard.
So it's Willian, basically, and no forwards. No one's looking at pass. So let's move on. Yeah, Fulham Crystal Palace, because I'm looking for the points here. Paul's convinced me there's going to be a shed load of points in this game week, and I want to find them. Now, Fulham have nothing to play for. They're already down. However, all of those players will not want out of there, basically.
Yeah, well,
they all are in the shop window.
That is a theory,
and they're all going to be told, get out there. You're at home. Crystal Palace, they have nothing to play for other than pride. Will that be enough?
Yeah, but Tony Pulis is the type of manager who won't send his side out just to finish off the season. And well done, lads. He'll want to keep pushing. And let's not forget, for a club like Crystal Palace, another points position, which is...
Can they overtake Stoke?
I'm not sure what the goal difference is. I have to.
No, there's about 7 goals in it, so I don't think. Unless things go well for them, they win 3-0 and the others lose 4.
Which, who knows? But I mean, it's all about money when it comes to that kind of.
I think Fulham are going to score 4. Yeah. I think they are.
For me, I'm not looking at Fulham.
I mightn't be either.
There's only one player I think that was really worth looking at. And that was Lewis Holtby, and he came off after 33 minutes in game week 37. He only played 45 and 36. You can't rely on him to get the game time.
No.
So for me, I'm out.
Okay, I'm out as well. It's Dragon's Den, Paul. Are you out? You out of Fulham?
Absolutely out of there.
Okay.
It's Duncan Bannatyne.
Sure, get in there. Right, Crystal Palace on the other hand. I've got a couple of Crystal Palace players.
Yeah, listen,
I might play them.
I'd actually think we could look at Palace for a clean sheet because they are that well organised at the back. We know what happens. In fact, I think only Chelsea have conceded less goals than Palace since Tony Pulis took over. So between game week 12 and game week 37, Chelsea are the only side to concede fewer goals than Palace. If I remember correctly, I think Palace have conceded 25 in that time, and Chelsea have only conceded 16 or 17. Thereabouts. Anyway.
Ward and punching anyway all day.
Yeah, listen, you've got Speroni. He's going to be my goalkeeper this week. Ward, I would probably look to Scott Dan at 4 million simply because he is going to play. He's probably the most reliable, cheapest option that's guaranteed a game this week. So I'd have a look at him for 4 million.
All right.
And certainly maybe punching could be one to have a look at. I don't really fancy any of the.
He got taken off early last week, though.
He's been rested for the last game.
That's the problem. But I think a Palace clean sheet certainly. And if you've got punching, play him. Listen, you're not going to sell him.
I think Fulham are going to score. Anyway, let's move on. Hull City and Everton. Hull City again. I mean, they're safe.
Yeah, and they've got one eye in the FA Cup. There's not too many players that want to go out there and.
They're hoping Andy Myler doesn't get suspended for that silly stamp on Januzaj.
It was silly.
That was so foolish, wasn't it?
Yeah. But anyway, we're not going to go near them.
No, I don't fancy Hull this week.
Yeah.
I think Everton clean sheet is another one worth looking at. Again, the defensive record has been quite good. I think if you've got Howard, he's going to be your goalkeeper. And then Coleman. I mean, Coleman picked up a couple of awards at the Everton end of year ceremony there yesterday.
Yeah, well deserved as well.
Absolutely, he made the PFA Team of the Year. For me, he's been the big surprise package of the season, and he'll be getting one last run out anyway.
What about Ross Barkley? 5.2. He's been in cracking form.
I'd say throw him in. I mean, he got that great goal there last week, and look, we know he's a fair flame of confidence on the brink of going to the World Cup. I'd be surprised if he's left out of the squad, to be honest. So yeah, I mean, he was one of those who was a good differential at the start of the season. He kind of dropped off, but he's come back now. So yeah, he'd absolutely be somebody to look at, you know. And look, as we say, Hull, they'll be nearly in party mode. And I mean, I suppose at the United Hull game the other night, I mean, it was a very lacklustre affair because of both teams. But when you're looking at it, you kind of think a team like Everton or someone like that would actually go and do a good job against them.
All right, let's talk about a place where the champagne bottles were cold. They haven't taken them out of the fridge though. They're still cold. Liverpool. They need to win. I mean, anything could happen. They need to win, and
they do.
And see what happens. So you got to trust them at home to beat Newcastle. So Suarez and Sturridge both injury free. Paul, give us a few differentials.
Well, look, you expect Liverpool to go out and get a few goals early. Newcastle might have beat Cardiff last week, but they lost their 5 games before that, and they're in terrible form. You know, this is always built up as being a classic Premier League game, but I still think that Liverpool will go and do the job. I mean, look, when you're talking differentials, it is difficult to talk differentials when we're talking Liverpool because we pretty much know the team that's going to play. I mean, they don't keep clean sheets, so it's nearly advisable to avoid their back four. If you were thinking about it, maybe throw Skirt links. He has popped up with headers over the course of the season. And then it's a case of, you know, Sterling, Gerrard, Suarez, Sturridge, you know. Coutinho got left out of the World Cup squad for Brazil, so I'd be a little wary about bringing him in as a maybe an outside shout or a sort of differential. Look, he also has been kind of coming in and out of the team a slight of late too. So, for me, everyone's going to have Suarez. You have to have him. I would expect him to have a good afternoon. And then the differential really is, do you want to throw Sturridge in? Do you expect him to go win by 3 and 4?
The other thing is, lads, I'll interrupt you, Paul, briefly. With Rooney injured and not to play on Sunday, and Aguero 75%, but probably won't play either. Will Aguero play?
I don't think he will.
I don't think he will either. So
Yeah.
so basically, me for instance, I have Rooney and Aguero. And I'm gonna have to get rid of both of them because I can't afford to have that much money doing nothing for me in the last game week of the season.
Yeah, well, I think Zeko's the one to come in. For
I have
Aguero.
Zeko. Yes, I haven't got Jesus.
At least
I have Zeko.
he's carrying the rest of the team, so he's getting a massive amount of
I'm going to
points.
stick Jesus in goal.
Jesus.
Because he saves. Sorry. Anyway, now up front though.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think if, again, looking at chasing the leaders, if
St. Louis.
the team above you has Suarez, again, he's one of those players I'd fancy to do well. I'd still hold on to, so don't worry about that too much. If you really want to be brave, I think Sturridge certainly could be one to look at. But, I mean, striker-wise, we'll move on, I suppose, to the next game of Man City and West Ham. I mean, Edin Dzeko, he's 4 goals in the double game week. He's on form. He's the man you're going to have.
We're not going near Newcastle away to Liverpool, are we? We all agreed?
No.
Okay, continue to Man City then.
So, I mean, it is Dzeko.
Who's going to be beside Zeko, or is he going to be in front of a 5-man midfield all in his own?
No, I think they'll go out and they'll go for it.
Jovetic?
After his goal, yeah, I mean, Negredo came on late in the game last night.
We brought Jovetic on first, though, didn't he?
He
So
did,
really
yeah.
shot, he was great.
Jovetic got a half an hour, got a goal. Negredo came on, he got 5 minutes. So I'll be looking. It'll probably be Dzeko and Negredo. But realistically, I mean, from a Manchester City point of view, I think a clean sheet is most certainly on the cards. I think they've kept 9 clean sheets at home this season, which is the best clean sheet record of any side in the league at home. Yaya Toure is a man that just can't be ignored. So again, he's one of those, whether he's a differential or not, you're keeping him. And then it's Zeko up front. I wouldn't be looking.
Give us a differential midfielder.
Nasri is the one there, isn't he?
Yeah, for me it would be Nasri. He's cheaper than Silva, and of late he's been playing a lot better. I spoke to Paul earlier on, and Paul made a very valid point about Manchester City, in that the game last night wasn't going their way. They weren't getting the goals they needed, and in previous seasons we've seen them they'd start arguing with each other and they'd be giving out, and Nasri was normally the number one culprit of that, and last night he wasn't at that. It was very much a team spirit, played well, and he's probably the one to look at if you're looking for a differential to Yaya.
Okay.
Sorry to rob your point, Paul, but it was very well made.
Okay, well.
I don't know. I'll take credit anytime it's going.
West Ham, again, something to steer clear of?
Unless you're a Liverpool supporter and you think that Andy Carroll's gone to...
Big Andy Carroll.
And don't not forget Stuart Downing as well.
Yeah.
2 ex-Liverpool players that can do Liverpool a favour. But for me, no, I'm staying well away, man.
All right, and Norwich and Arsenal. Poor old Norwich, mathematically not down yet, but they really are.
Yeah, they are. For me, Arsenal are going to have one eye on the FA Cup final as well. However, if I was to pick one player from Arsenal to have a look at, I'd actually go with Mesut Ozil. And the reason for that being is that he needs to get his match fitness up. He's only played 90 minutes, which was last week, which is the full 90 he got since returning from injury. He's going to need his fitness up for the FA Cup final. And certainly I think he's probably the best one to have a look at. Now, I know Giroud is scoring goals for fun, but I wonder whether he might be rested.
Next up, it is Southampton Manchester United. Possibly Pochettino's last game. Paul, a very impressive performance by the manager this season since he's come in. Other clubs are looking at him, apparently including Spurs, and that's not all. Some Spanish clubs also looking at the young manager. He has done extremely well. They're just behind Manchester United in the league in 8th place, and he's done a good job. But United, you don't know where they're at. Ryan Giggs and all of that.
It's one of these. I mean, look, what is it? It's possibly Ryan Giggs' last game for United.
What are you looking at this game, Paul? Are you looking at this game as a Man United win away?
I think United will win away, but I don't see there being many points. I see it maybe being a bit of a damn squib. Obviously, I was
thinking 3-3 draw. I was thinking 3-3 draw. They go out and enjoy themselves and put on a show. Southampton included. Southampton at home. Lallana still trying to force his way into that squad named on Monday. This is the last chance, lads. Get out there and nail your place on to Rio. That's what I'd be saying if I was Pochettino, but in a more South American accent, probably through my translator.
Yeah.
A lot of things can get lost in translation.
Obviously, his interviews are hilarious. He doesn't answer any questions. You notice that?
He's brilliant. It's exactly the strategy.
He's actually got fluent English.
Yeah,
He just
well, apparently his English is very good, but why not give yourself a barrier between the press? Perfect.
Nice. Yeah, listen, it's very hard to say, especially after the changes.
Pretending I only speak Irish. You're gonna have to speak through. Try that.
It's going to be very hard to say what way the United are going to line up at the weekend. I mean, Mata being dropped was a big kick in the rocks for a lot of people.
Yes.
Obviously, we kind of knew Rooney may not have been fit. Van Persie's return, listen, he's going to play. He needs fitness. He needs game time like Ozil. He needs game time heading into the World Cup. There's no fear of him not making the Dutch squad, that's for sure.
What about Wilson, 4.5?
Yeah, I wasn't overly impressed with him in Castaway, so for that reason I wouldn't be looking at him.
Okay.
Do you like that?
No, straight over my head. But
really?
That was terrible.
I'll nod my head.
He did well, but
Tough
I mean,
crowd.
It was hard enough to name the team that the Ferguson was ever going to put out. Boys continued that, and now Giggs just total. I mean, giving two lads their debuts, in fairness, probably the right thing to do, but very, very difficult. I doubt there's anybody who'll be able to pick out a starting 11 there for United and actually get it right.
Yeah.
You know?
I think Van Persie's probably the only guaranteed. Probably.
I wouldn't even be sure about that. I wouldn't share that.
I think he needs the game
either,
time. I think he'll want to play. He needs a bit of match fitness.
Yeah, maybe so. I think it'll be a tough game. And
are you bringing in any players for Man United?
I'd probably be selling some players. I have Mata. I was one of those who got messed about with him, so he'll probably go out the door. Januzaj will stay, and I have an injured Wayne Rooney on the books. He'll also go. But I don't see any United players coming in. So that's on to the next one for me, anyway.
All right, not going near Southampton as well. Sunderland and Swansea. Sunderland at home want to overtake the team right above them, which is Swansea. Earn more money. They've done well. Who could have predicted what they've just done? Yeah,
I mean, in fairness to them, it's impressive stuff. Swansea have named Gary Monk as the new permanent manager on a 3-year deal. Both sides.
Very interesting though. If Sunderland do win this game, they'll effectively get about £2.2 million in their pocket for winning the game. If you go on the basis that we assume that Man City will beat West Ham, and they'll jump down as well.
So they'll I think they go up to 12th place or something like that. So,
which is remarkable.
Yeah,
it is. For me, Sunderland wise, I think Connor Wickham is probably still worth a shout. Last night was his first blank in 5 games, and Swansea, Boney, whilst disappointing in game week 37, as I've mentioned here before in the podcast, most of his goals have come on the road. So I'd actually be looking at him for a goal or even 2 for Swansea against Sunderland. I don't know what way to take this game. I don't know whether Sunderland will keep it up or maybe now that's it. The adrenaline is gone and we know we're safe. Let's just go out and play. And when Sunderland just go out and play, they're terrible.
I would see this as being your 4-4 draw game with loads of silly goals in it.
Possibly so, and that's why I'm looking at a striker from each. I think Wickham and Boney are probably the best 2 to have a look at.
I think Barini.
Yeah.
He's a good player.
Yeah,
he is. And if there's going to be goals, they'll be shared around. You'd expect them to pop up on it. And so look, you're taking a punt at this point. You'd probably favour Wickham maybe just slightly more. But then having said that, if the lad above you has Wickham, there you go. There's someone else to maybe have a gamble on. So I mean, you've got a lot of informed strikers in this, so yeah, go for it.
So you reckon Boney and
I think Boney and Wickham, and maybe if you really wanted to have a punt, Adam Johnson has an outside shout of making the World Cup squad simply due to the fact that there's a lot of injuries. So he might want to give Roy one more thing to think about.
And Swansea? Boney, apart from Boney?
No, I'm kind of leave. I think I'll leave it there. You could possibly make a case for the Guzman or John Joe, but I'm kind of just, I'd be happy enough for just Boney.
And in the midfield for Sunderland?
I mean, Larson, like I said, or Johnson might be one we're taking a punt on. But personally, probably not. I think that's as much exposure to that game as I'd want.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Spurs at home to Villa.
Yeah, well, this is one of the games where there is actually something to play for. I mean, Tottenham need a win to make sure they have Europa League football next season.
Okay. And Eriksen is a player we've been speaking about regularly, and we're going to continue to speak about him.
Yeah, he's kind of gone off the boil a little bit, but I actually fancy him to come back and do something this week when he's required to do so. So I would be having a look at him.
Did Paulinho get into the Brazilian team?
I didn't actually.
Yeah.
There you go.
did.
I didn't see it, but there you go. Paul.
Yeah, he got in.
And I mean, if you're looking for a chief differential at the back, I'd actually have a look at Michael Dawson at 4.9. I think that Spurs will pick up another clean sheet at home. Villa are Villa. And then up front, you can make a case for Adebayor or Kane. I think if you have either of those, certainly play them. If I was bringing one in, I'd probably go for Harry Kane. Despite his own goal last week, I'd look to him. So I think 3 Tottenham players could be advised this week, given the fact that they do still have something to play for, and they're playing a Villa side that Villa have started giving debuts to young lads and stuff like that. So that'll kind of give you an idea.
Paul, where do you see these points coming for Spurs this week?
Look, I mean, it's in the players that you mentioned, but I fancy Villa to get 1 or 2 goals on the break in this game. And I'd throw Vyman in there. He very seriously considering him with a great game week last week. And, like, again, it's like that. Villa are another one of these teams where if results go right, they could make 3 or 4 million out of just winning this football match. So they very much, there is that to play for. So, look, if there's any savvy chairman out there, I'm sure they might look to kind of, here's a cut of this, lads, if you can go out and give me a performance. So that's what I'd be looking at. Yeah, you're right. Look, they're giving debuts to other people, blah blah blah. But at the same time, they did defend fairly well against Man City for a large amount of the game. So it'll be interesting to see if they can do that against Tottenham and maybe nick something.
Yeah, they didn't really trouble City going forward though.
No.
Now I know there's a big difference in City and Tottenham, but still, I think Tottenham's where it's at.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on then to the last game of the season. West Brom and Stoke City. West Brom, well, I said they don't have a lot to play for, but mathematically another point would be nice.
Yeah, I think another point will just make them a little bit happier. But, I mean, and if you look at it, that I expect Everton to beat Hull. I mean, West Brom could overtake Hull, and I expect Spurs to beat Villa. I mean, in theory, West Brom could find themselves, jumping both of those, and even if Sunderland's result doesn't go that way, West Brom. So it comes down to cash, because I think the last time I looked, it's about 1.5 million or 1.6 million per place. Is the difference?
It is, yeah. They kind of stagger between 1.1 and 1.7 depending on the position, but yeah, it's a significant amount of cash.
Yeah, and I mean that kind of money would mean a lot to West Brom, but it also mean a lot to Stoke. I mean, Stoke are on course for their best points tally, their best place finish in Premier League history. And in fairness to Mark Hughes, he's done very, very well. You can't really argue with it. Probably
ninth place as well within their grasp. I mean, if you look at it, we expect Newcastle to lose to a buoyant Liverpool, who are just going to go guns blazing and hope for the best.
Oh yeah, I'd expect Newcastle to lose, and Stoke. I actually think Stoke will win. And for me, Arnautovic is the one to have a look at. He's been doing very well recently, and he is a differential. There's no doubt about that. So for fantasy managers looking to take an outside punt, I think he is one to consider. Yeah, that's a West Brom side. I thought they were very, very poor against Sunderland last night. I don't really see the fight in them, but they don't need to fight. So. Now maybe the pressure's off. Technically, they can go out and play some free-flowing football, and Pepe Mel will just tell them, go on out and do it for the fans.
He's going to Malaga. He doesn't mind it at all.
Fiddlers, exactly.
Yeah, he's done his job. Fair play to him.
Yeah. So I mean, West Brom have conceded They've conceded 10 goals in the last 5 games. I think Arnautovic could certainly trouble them. And with Peter Crouch being dropped last week, although Arnautovic is listed as a midfielder, he has been playing further forward, which could increase his potential this week.
Okay, very interesting advice there. More interesting will be captain's picks. Now, I have to say, Paul, I've no idea how you're going to choose a captain this week. I suppose the safest thing to do will be to stick one on a Manchester City player or a Liverpool player. Yaya Toure or Edin Dzeko.
There's going to be a lot of, I'd say Suarez will be the most popular pick, because Liverpool are at home to Newcastle and they have blown teams away. And then it's a case of, Dzeko, he's in form, you can't see him not playing, and we do expect City to beat West Ham. Yaya Toure again, he's there. I mean, there really are the three to choose between. I mean, outside of that, I mean, maybe you could make the arguments for a couple, but maybe Arsenal away to Norwich to actually do something there. So maybe Ramsey or one or two others that could pop up and do quite well, and maybe Ozil, as Phil was saying. But, for me, it kind of your captain choice this week depends on who you're going after. I would probably, at the minute, have it sitting on Yaya Toure's arm. But considering Jekyll at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Again, this isn't about just points. It's about what the person above you is doing. So you're going to have a look. Who did I make captain last week? And go back over a couple of weeks and see where their captains have come from. If they're picking quite the obvious, I think you can make a fairly astute assumption as to where the armband is going to go this week.
Yeah, if they're a Liverpool fan, it'll be on a Liverpool player.
Exactly, and that's another thing to consider. Have a look at the bottom of their team. It'll show you who they support. Hometown mentality comes into it, even though it really shouldn't. But that'll just give you an idea as well. For me, I can't disagree with Paul. I think, Zeko, Suarez. Outside of that, I'm struggling.
It's a bit of a lottery. Outside of the games where people actually need a result, it's a bit of a lottery.
It is a bit of a lottery. I mean, you could possibly look to Everton even to blast Hull out of it. So Romelu Lukaku could be a man. But yeah, it's the obvious choices. It's City or it's Liverpool.
All right, that is Captain's Picks. Right, very little time left in the season. We may have a pod just for fun to review the season at some point, and maybe have a World Cup pod after the World Cup. We'll see how that's going to affect the transfer window and all of that. But it has been a pleasure, gentlemen. Phil McGrath and Paul Caffrey. Pleasure to work with you again this season.
Another fantastic season.
Thank you very much. It's been very, very enjoyable, guys.
Thank you for all the false leads and the good advice.
And thank you very much to everyone else for tuning in. Of course, guys, if you do like what we do, feel free to give us a review on iTunes. It is greatly appreciated. Yeah,
it is greatly appreciated. Yeah, good luck with Game Week 38. Make it count, because this is it, really.
Yeah, and we'll see you Sunday morning for Lifetime.
Sunday morning, Lifetime, half 10 to half 11. Sunday morning,
the final Lifetime of the season.
Yeah, almost historical. All right, listen, good luck to all the listeners of the pod, and to Phil and to Paul in the last game week, and I hope you catch whoever you want to catch. All right, that's great. Well done, lads. Another season done, huh? Holidays!
Where to put the sun cream?